So, liebe Freunde, wir haben uns jetzt hier zusammengefunden, um mit Jean-Maxime Moris, der Creative Director von DONTNOD Games, die für Remember Me und für Life is Strange verantwortlich sind, jetzt ein Interview zu führen. Ich bin sehr, sehr gespannt. Ich hoffe, ihr habt viel Spaß. Den werde ich jetzt auf jeden Fall haben. So, Jean-Maxime, before I start with my question, let's refresh our memories. Tell us something about Life is Strange.
So, Life is Strange is the new game coming out of DONTNOD, the studio that we founded in Paris a few years ago. Our first game was Remember Me, that came out last year. Life is Strange is in many ways different from Remember Me. It's a different type of game with a different publisher. We're going for an episodic game this time. It's basically a modern adventure game that favors storytelling, story development, and choices over, let's say, more traditional puzzles. And we're adding a new mechanic in that, which you might recognize a little bit from Remember Me, which is the ability that the main character has to rewind time and change the course of destiny. So in terms of story, maybe very quickly, the game tells the story of Max Caulfield, a teenager that is coming back to her hometown of Arcata Bay in Oregon after 5 years spent away. And she's going to be reunited with her former best friend, Chloe, who has grown into a very different person that she used to know, basically because her father died a few years ago. And basically the game is going to see the two characters collide and enter the world of adults together, making choices that will define them as adults. They're going to investigate on the disappearance of one of their friends, and Max is going to try to understand where that power comes from, that power to rewind time, which she discovers at the beginning of the game.
Okay, so why did you guys decide to do an episodic content game?
So that was actually a creative choice that came from some of the brainstorms that we had at the beginning of the game. We wanted to do something a little bit different from Remember Me, so a lot of it, was quite similar. We had a third-person game, but we wanted a different type of pacing, so we went for an adventure game, different themes, and also different storytelling constraints or mechanics. And very quickly, that we're huge fans of independent games and Telltale games, and very quickly, the idea emerged to do an episodic game, and we were all very excited to work on narrative cliffhangers, choice cliffhangers, gameplay cliffhangers, and how to keep people involved from one episode to the next. And we found that was really interesting. And then we went to Square Enix and talked to them about the game. They thought that made a lot of sense too, because of the general trend towards episodic gaming and digital releases.
Okay, so let's talk about the characters. Can you describe the relationship between Max and Chloe? What makes the characters so unique?
So what makes them unique is that so these are two teenagers. Actually, Chloe is just a little bit older than Max, 2 years older. They have been separated for 5 years, and they used to be best friends. And the story takes place. We're exploring basically the theme of being a teenager and growing into being an adult, and how your choices matter. And we're going to play on this idea of choices with the rewind aspect of the game. And at the beginning of the game, Chloe is going to be a little bit mad at Max for having made a few bad choices, not being in contact with her for 5 years. And this is, when you're a teenager, all of these things, you're basically building your personality, and all of these things matter greatly. And that's what's going to make the relation very unique, human in the game, because this is, I think, going to sound and ring extremely true to everyone. This is a game about real people with real issues at a very significant time in their life.
So, Jean-Maxime, you mentioned it before, the time rewind is a key feature in Life is Strange. But how does the rewind system influence the story in Life is Strange? Or is it just a gimmick for puzzle solving and stuff like that?
No, it's much more than a gimmick for puzzle solving. So you can use the rewind to rewind any of the major choices that you make during the game, and that are going to really impact your experience, and how the other characters see you in the game. But that doesn't mean you get to cheat the game and know every single outcome and then just pick one, because the consequences of your choices are going to be very different, short term, mid term, and long term in the game. So even if you think you made the right choice, we'll have ways to surprise you further down the line.
So like one of the Walking Dead and games like that.
Yes, exactly. And definitely one of the key messages of the game is that, in order to become an adult, you have to actually make choices and stand by them. So we're going to use that to tell that story and the rewind. And then it's also something that we use in gameplay for the puzzles with different rules. That's something you'll discover more in the game, but we also have very interesting things to do with the rewind and puzzle situations.
Okay, so you mentioned it before. We saw elements from the rewind system in Remember Me. So my question is, how much Remember Me is in Life is Strange?
That's a very good question. I think, basically the idea to use the rewind clearly came from Remember Me. We felt we wanted to do more with that idea, but we decided to go into the real world now and changing the present, the future, and the past, instead of just changing people's memories. And really, the whole game was built from that idea of the rewind. We have the rewind. We want to do it in real life. What does the rewind impact? Choice. Okay, where do you what story can you tell with choices? Okay, what is the time in your life where your choices matter the most? It's when you're a teenager, etc., etc., etc. So it really came from that idea that we already had in Remember Me. And the other thing is, if you look at what we were doing in Remember Me with all the digitized memories, this was a game about people's identity and intimacy in a world where all the memories are digitized and you can basically change people's memories or steal them. Well, in Life is Strange, we're looking at a different type of identity theme. We're looking at a character that takes pictures of everything all the time, a little bit like memories, and that's also at a key moment in her life where she's making, again, all those choices that are going to define who she is. So I'd say the identity theme is what links Remember Me and Life is Strange.
Okay, so at Gamescom, where you announced the game with a lovely presentation, you said that Life is Strange is an AAA indie. And I think this is a very interesting term. Can you explain this a little bit further?
Sure. So actually, to be a bit more accurate, I'd say that Life is Strange is a game that sits in between the indie world and the AAA world. Okay, so what I mean by that is that we're very much big fans of indie games and indie movies, and mostly because innovation and fresh ideas and different themes are stemming from the indie gaming scene, and a lot of that you can see in Life is Strange with the type of characters that we portray, in the type of themes that we're gonna dive into, and that's also true with indie movies and the type of mood that they create. This nostalgic kind of Tribeca, Sundance Festival type of movies that you can also get a feel of in Life is Strange. And at the same time, well, we're not totally indie, and we're in between the AAA world also, because we have a big publisher backing us now, and we have big ambitions with quite high production values, and so it's I think it's a very sweet spot to be in.
But why did you team up with the publisher at all? I think that Life is Strange is the perfect example for a 100% indie game production.
Sure. It's always a possibility when you're when you have your studio to go and do everything yourself. The problem is that that requires a lot of time and effort and people with the right skills to really pursue those goals daily and focus on that task. We considered it very seriously, but then we also talked to publishers, and lots of publishers, were not that, again, the two female characters, they were a bit afraid of, etc. So that was like, okay, well, we may have to do it alone. But then we met Square Enix, and they were 100%, really 100% behind the identity of the game. And that was so cool. And we talked to them, and it really felt like we were on the same page from the beginning. And with them, we actually have access to, we have access, for instance, to this interview right now,
Okay.
and I don't have to do anything about that, and I'm here. Well, imagine that, but, across month and in the whole world. And that's the type of power that a publisher gives you. So, I think if a publisher respects your game and actually aims at making it reach for the stars, then I don't see a problem with working with a publisher.
Of course. Okay. So Jean-Maxime, my last question is: when can we download the first episode? And do you want to tell us something about episode 2?
So I won't be telling you anything about episode 2 today. I cannot tell you a lot about episode 1 either. I want you to discover many things for yourself. But you'll be able to download episode 1 on the 29th of January 2015 for the PC via Steam, and we're aiming at a similar window for consoles.
Okay, cool. So, das war unser Interview mit Jean-Maxime, dem Creative Director von DONTNOD Games. Life is Strange kommt am 29. Januar für PC und relativ zeitnah dann auch für Konsolen. Ich habe sehr, sehr, sehr große Lust. Life is Strange ist wirklich ein Projekt, das mir mittlerweile sehr am Herzen liegt und das ein paar neue Sachen neu erfinden möchte. Und deswegen bin ich fest davon überzeugt, dass man dem Ganzen eine Chance geben sollte. In diesem Sinne sehen wir uns dann wahrscheinlich Ende Januar wieder, wenn wir das Spiel testen. In diesem Sinne sage ich Tschüss und bis dann.
Tschüss.